movement series. We're talking about the lunge today. Remember, all the movements of your life are covered in this series. Squat, which we went over last week, which you can go back on our group page, Stronger Together Education Academy, and search squat, and it'll come up. It was a live we did last Monday. Okay? You'll see all the movements that are part of everyday life. Carries, rotations, squatting, pressing, pulling. We're going to be going over all those. Today we're covering the lunge. The lunge are great exercises. They're great movements, and there are many variations you can be doing. We're going to go over all that today. All right. Let's start by talking about your joint movements, ankles, knees, and hips. Okay? Remember, every significant lower body exercise during the concentric shortening phase is a hip extension and knee extension. What does that mean? Remember, extension is increasing the joint angle. Concentric is the shortening phase, so when we step into a forward lunge and we go down eccentrically, my knee is bending, my hip is bending. Now they're both extending, increasing that joint angle, so that when I come up and I'm working concentrically, the knee, which is at 90 degrees right now, is now at 180 degrees. The hip is actually back up to 180 so that it's a straight line. Okay, like this. Okay, the ankle actually plantar flexes on the way to some degree, depending on whether or not you're doing a forward lunge or a reverse lunge. It can dorsiflex when you bring it here, like that. All right? So, remember, every significant lower body exercise, squats, deadlifts, jumps, cleans, snatches, leg presses, are hip extension, knee extension, okay? Meaning unbending and or increasing the joint angle. All right. The next significant thing you need to understand is lunges can be great as a standalone exercise, meaning they are a fundamental movement of life, but they also can be a great replacement exercise for anyone who says they don't squat, can't squat, shouldn't squat because of lower back issues. When we squat, we get pelvic movement. Little tilt, little tilt. Okay? When we lunge, our pelvis stays neutral, whether it's forward, whether it's side, or whether it's reverse. By the way, none of those were great form, but you get the point. Our pelvis does not tilt like it does in a squat. So you could essentially do a side lunge up against the wall. I couldn't squat and keep my pelvis in alignment when I squat. All right? So if you're up against the wall, you could do that. All right? So that's a significant thing to understand, because although there are probably other root issues involved, we don't need to address those today. When you squat, you can cause lower back issues if you have problems with your sacrum and or your lumbar, lower back or pelvis. Okay? When you do lunges, those don't move, so you are less likely to cause any issues. So if they're complaining about lower back issues, you can advise them to do a lunge instead, and that should potentially and can eliminate any risk of aggravating your lower back. Okay? So we have our joint movements, we have our options, and now we have our differentiations. Some people are not quite sure what's the difference between a lunge and a split squat. The movement of a lunge is lunging forward, like you're going to get something. whether it's a step forward, a step back, or a side step. You get your forward, reverse, and side lunges all involving a step. If you are in the position, the end position of the step of the lunge, and you're simply going up and down, whether it's forward or reverse, that is a split squat when you are not taking the step. So the stepping motion is the lunging part of the lunge. Locked feet makes it a split squat. Both are great exercises. If your client and or student has balance issues, the most at-risk part is that part right there where their foot is in the air. So regressing to a split squat can have benefits. Okay, I actually love Bulgarian rear elevated split squats are actually one of our favorite exercises. Okay, but that's a rear elevated split squat, aka also known as a Bulgarian squat. Okay, so your joint movements: hip extension, knee extension, ankle, plantar flexion. Ankle, okay? Then you have a lunge, saves the pelvis, lower back. Then you have the difference between a lunge and a split squat. Okay, now we've already talked about the options. There really truly are three movement options: forward, reverse, and side. Equipment. You really can use anything you want, although we're not real fans of dumbbell lunges, holding the dumbbells like this. Tends to be people with lower back issues. That weight shifting forward causes their lower back to kind of get that little shimmy movement, and it causes a little lower back issues. We actually prefer holding like this because additionally you get some shoulder work, you get some bicep work, you get some grip work, and you get some core work. Okay, so some people do their lunges like that. That's fine. However, we tend to feel it aggravates our lower back, so we hold like here when we do dumbbells. You can hold kettlebells. One arm, both arms. Same with dumbbells. One arm, both arms. You find that if you hold one arm, you tend to get a little bit more oblique training on that side. So we could do opposites. You could do same side, which is a little bit harder to balance because you don't have that contralateral balance aspect, meaning opposite sides. You can do barbell lunges. You can do barbell reverses. You can do front barbell, gives you a little bit more abs. All are great options. You can actually do depth lunges, where if you have a box, you can step your front foot onto the box, and it's a great depth lunge, because the last thing we're talking about today is whether you're working your quad or your hamstring. If you're going heavy and you shorten your range of motion, believe it or not, that can be okay. Not always going to full range of motion. That's controversial for some people, but you can purposely try to train the quads. The lower you go on squats and lunges, the more hamstring you involve. If you're going for power or athletic development, it is perfectly okay to do a short range of motion because your sport is actually played in a quarter squat position. Okay, some people don't understand that and poo-poo, all that stuff. Okay, anyway, a lunge, if I step, first of all, if you're going to step, make sure that your foot gets all the way on. Some people always come up short, and that's just a recipe for disaster. Get all the way. Now, if I go below where I can normally get to in a depth lunge, I will involve more hamstring and get an even greater recruitment of muscle fibers, therefore making it a better potential exercise. Not everyone is ready for it. Not everyone needs that extra, but if you are ready and you want to try it, a depth lunge can be very beneficial. Okay, so we talked about your joint movements. We talked about saving your lower back. We talked about the difference between a lunge and a split squat. We talked about your variations of movements. We talked about your variations of equipment. Also, you could potentially hold a medicine ball. Okay? All right, now, do's and don'ts. Walking lunges. People love to do walking lunges where they kind of cheat their movement and they kind of shorten their range of motion and they just push off moving forward. If you're gonna lunge, try to go down and up and then step. Doing this little half is essentially just kind of cheating and making the calf do the work. Okay? It doesn't matter if you're going for longer distances. If you're cheating your way through the workout, you're still cheating. Okay? Don't make your calf do the work. Side note, same thing when you're doing step-ups. If you're just doing a step-up and you're pushing up with your calf is already strong. It doesn't need the extra work. Side note. Okay, so we got that. We got your variations. We got your equipment. We got your cheats. Some people tend to come forward a little bit too much. As long as you're not rounding forward, you tend to be okay bending a slight forward. It's actually a positional awareness that can happen, and that's okay. And I think that's all we got for today. So, hip extension, knee extension. Save your lower back by not getting pelvic tilt with lunges. They are a foundational movement, so that's great. Okay? Your options are any piece of apparatus. Your directions are forward, reverse, and side, or forward, side, and reverse. And then don't cheat your way through it just because you can doesn't mean you should. Alright? That's all we have for today for your fundamental movements of life. Today talking about the lunge. If you find this information great, please share, please like, please comment, let us know what you like about it. And we'll continue this next week where we are doing pressing. Press, press, okay, like raise the roof. Woo, woo. Alright, but that's all we have for today. You guys go out, be great, be amazing, and we'll see you when we see you. Thanks for tuning in at the Stronger Together Education Academy. Thank you.